Welcome to the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board for Monday, October 14th, 2014. The City of Gladstone is abiding by guidelines set forth in House Bill 2560, which requires the governing body of the public body to extend reasonably possible to make all meetings accessible remotely through technological means and provide opportunity for members of the general public to remotely submit oral and written testimony during meetings to the extent in-person oral and written testimony is allowed. Therefore, this meeting will be open to the public both in person and virtually using the Zoom platform. Kristen, would you call the roll, please? Yeah. Are you at a spot you can do that? Are you okay?
Yeah. Okay. Kate Cornelius here. Kim Agramson, absent. Nancy Turner,
Present.
Bruce Hildreth,
Present.
Justice Mills,
Here.
David Michael,
Here.
and Eric Butler is also absent.
Okay. So the first on our agenda is the approval of minutes from August 12th. We did not have a meeting in September, so that's why we're okaying the minutes from August 12th. So all of you received that in your packet. Were there any concerns, questions, corrections that we needed to address? No?
Okay.
Okay. Did you have any corrections for the minutes? No? Okay. Would someone like to make a motion?
I would make a motion to approve the minutes.
Is there a second?
This is Justice Mills. I approve. Second.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Number 3 on our business is business from the staff. City Administrator Jacqueline Betts will address these.
Well, good evening, everyone. Before I get started on giving you an update from staff, I also wanted to note that we did get an additional item to add to your agenda tonight. And my recommendation to Chair Turner is that you add it under item number 4, business from the board. And this is in relation to a memorial donation bench application that the city received. So in your packet, we included the monthly report for September. You'll see some great work that's been happening in the different departments, including our parks there. Also wanted to let you know that we are in the process of recruiting for a new public works director, and that recruitment will be open for the month of October. It'll close on November 3rd. And then we will evaluate the applications that we have at that time, and we'll be going through an interview process. Because that position is a department head position, the city council will be involved with the selection process. And I'd also like to include a couple members of the Parks Board. So maybe at the end of this meeting, you guys can talk about if there are a couple members that would like to be involved with the interview process. In the meantime, we have Robert Hale, who's our interim public works director. He is housed over in the public works department. And then I am covering all of the projects from public works that are currently being finished. And Robert's doing a phenomenal job over there seeing the daily operations. So that's what you have in your packet is a copy of the monthly report. And the first project that I wanted to give you an update on is in relations to the paved loop trail at the Gladstone Nature Park. So back in September of 2022, it's been a couple years now, the city council approved a resolution to apply for that grant. We received notice from Oregon State Parks and Recreation that they were going to award us that grant, but they had one special condition is that we needed to finish or we needed to complete an archaeological and cultural resources study to be completed. That's what took a lot of time in between July of 2023 and where we are today. So we hired Trail Chronicle Heritage to complete the work. Their final report was sent to the state. No comments were received from the tribes. There was no issues discovered. No surprises. A lot of rock is what was found on the property there. So the next step is for the city council to accept the grant, and that is proposed to go on the agenda for November 12th. So I'll be working on a staff report with a copy of the agreement. And the grant award is for $111,500. The city's match is also the same, so the total project cost is estimated at being $223,000. Once the city council has approved the grant, we'll put a timeline together of when we would like to start doing the design and engineer. Again, we'd like to include a couple members from the Parks Board and probably also the Friends of the Gladstone Nature Park to talk about where specifically that paved loop trail should be designed. We do have until August 31st of 2026 to complete that project. So it's moving forward at glacier speed, and we're very excited to get that started. The next project I wanted to give you an update on is also on the Gladstone Nature Park, and this has to do with the money that Metro has from the local share program. And the Parks Board and the City Council agreed that the first project that we wanted to work on was to add restrooms and a picnic shelter to the Gladstone Nature Park. What is allocated for Gladstone from Metro is about $852,000. Marcy Jory, who is our Economic Development Coordinator, finished the application, which was about 15 pages. It was very complex, a lot of information. We have submitted that application to Metro. And Kristen, you can go ahead and show that photo that you have there. I wanted to give you a conceptual drawing. This is not exactly what we propose to go up there. But what you will see is that it will be an ADA bathroom connected to a picnic shelter. And I believe we will have 4 ADA accessible picnic tables. I think that photo has 6 or 8. But it will give you an idea of what the project will look like on the nature park. And this project actually, I'll go through the budget with you. We were very surprised at how high this project came in at, because we had to give estimates for the permitting process, which will require design review, the construction, including all the materials, the equipment, to hire a contractor, the capital costs, system development charges, park furniture, which includes picnic tables, trash receptacles, and it came in at $780,000 estimated to do this project on that site. So Metro has the application. They are going to be spending the next 20 days of reviewing it. If there's any corrections or modifications that we have to submit, we will do that. Once Metro has given us the approval to move forward, we'll bring an agreement to the city council to approve that. And then we will start working on that project as well. With the paved loop trail and the restrooms and picnic shelters, there's a potential that may evaluate either hiring a project manager that can do both of those projects together, or wait for the new public works director. But if the timing for the new public works director is going to take longer than January, we want to go ahead and get started on that, and that we would retain a project manager to move it. So both projects have funding. We're waiting for approval on both of them. And then the Parks Board will, of course, be involved in the design phase of those. We would come to you before we would submit a design review application to the Planning Commission. So those are the two project updates I wanted to give you in relation to the Gladstone Nature Park. Also, just very briefly, wanted to let you know that we did apply a second time to get grant funds from the T-Mobile grant for the proposed dog park at Meldrum Bar Park, but we were notified that we did not receive the funding. So as it stands right now, there's no allocated funding for that project. We'll continue to keep monitoring other possibilities. This is something that maybe the Parks Board wants to talk about, whether or not you want, I'm not sure if it would qualify for Good Neighbor Fund programs, but it's something that we may want to consider in the future. I did receive some communication from Two Rivers Co-op. They were under the assumption that this project had already been funded and they had some concerns about where it was going to be located. I told them that we had gone through a very comprehensive process of adopting a site plan at Meldrum Bar Park. And I think that this could be an opportunity to actually work with them on some screening or some new fencing that they would like along that area. So I think the conversation ended on a positive note. They'd like to work with the city on that. Unfortunately, we're still trying to identify funding for that project. And then the last update I wanted to provide you is in relations to High Rocks Park. I think I've kept all of you updated that this was probably the last year for the River Rescue Program for free. And we've had probably 25 years of that program for free at the High Rocks Park. And that the city will need to look at funding that program in the future. This is something that AMR provides for us, and it begins on Memorial Day and it goes through Labor Day. And so one of the things that we're proactively thinking about is Wes is interested in helping us sponsor this program because they have an interest in keeping the public safe at a public park. And there's access from High Rocks from the Oregon City side. So we're going to set up a meeting with the Oregon City manager, myself, and Wes to talk about a potential sponsorship for the future should AMR require that we pay for that program. I did ask AMR if they could provide me a little bit of stats on how their summer went out there. And they said that they had staff at High Rock 7 days a week from 10:30 in the morning to 7:30 p.m. They were there from Memorial Day through Labor Day. And I actually think they were there 1 week longer because the heat was high and they stayed out there. The information that they gave me was the total census for the season was over 31,000 people, which they said was slightly lower than previous years. And you don't know how many of those are just repeat people coming back there. They had 22 assists with no rescues. So the good news is we didn't have any accidents. We didn't have any drownings, but they did had 22 assists out there. So that's the information that they provided me. Again, I'd like to keep the Parks Board and the City Council updated because we'd like to make sure that we have this program going into next May of 2025 for that.
What changed that there's no longer kind of for free, or who was funding that before?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Who was funding it before? AMR was just paying for?
They were just subsidizing that program, yes. And they also have a program in Troutdale. There's two cities that benefit from the River Rescue Program. It's Gladstone, Oregon City at High Rocks, and then Troutdale also has a portion. I think in Troutdale, there are business sponsorships that pay into that. So like I said, we've been very fortunate in Gladstone that we haven't had to pay for that. And so we're trying very hard to work with our neighbor organizations. And I also asked AMR to give me a cost proposal of what that would look like for next May.
Are there any other questions for Jackie from the different things that she presented? David?
Yeah, Jackie, I just noticed this, um, restroom slash, shelter there, for Gladstone Nature Park. Now, that's the first, first input we've ever had here or myself at Fognap about any type of design of that. And it seems like it's pretty grand, even at the scaled down version. And, we've been wanting to get, water there and a bathroom there for a long, long time, as you know. But I don't think any of us ever really, I mean, this is grander than anything in any other park. It is. And I just wonder if will that overwhelm the parking or, and all of the other amenities. I'm wondering if it's possible before it goes through that we can have some discussion pre-designed so that it doesn't take off with what's the expectation of this facility, because, we all want it to happen. But the cost is, of course, really heavy. And I'm not sure that anybody involved with Gladstone Nature Park had anything in mind that would be that large.
Yeah, and that's what you draw a risk by showing you a picture, because that is not what we're applying for. It
Right.
actually, I believe, is what is going to be at the site of the new Oak Lodge Library.
Oh,
And NCPRD, they're doing a project down there.
yeah.
They applied for the same Metro funds, and they're doing a bathroom picnic shelter. So we took that just as concept only so that you would see what a covered picnic area connected to a bathroom would look like. But I think that you're absolutely right. Once we are awarded the funding, that we come back to this group and then say, what is right-sized for
Yeah.
Gladstone? It may lower the cost for what we're proposing. A lot of the cost is associated with getting the utilities
We know.
out there too, and digging in the rock up there. But I think you have some good comments, because we want to also be thoughtful about the placement of that and the trail. So that's why I think both of these projects can run concurrently together.
Great.
Any other comments or concerns or questions? Okay, yeah, that was a beautiful photo.
Yeah.
It's like, wow. And then to see the beautiful cost of that was even more concerning.
The Ponderosa pine on the
Yeah,
side.
yeah. Yeah, so I think we can maybe work on some of that, but thank you for your updates.
You're welcome.
All right, we'll move on to business from the board. Our big business tonight is to get the goals for the next biennium nailed down. So we had handed out a copy of the draft, and they say draft last time, and it came in your packet that you got in your email. So that's one set. Kate made some changes. Bruce, you had some concerns or some things that you had.
I just made some notes.
Okay,
Yeah, just to answer you, Nancy, this is Bruce Hildreth. I made some notes. Thought we were gonna have a discussion on
yeah,
items.
we are.
Okay.
Yeah, so if anyone, we can go through this. Did we just,
No, we're fine. Just.
okay, keep going. All right.
I just
Um,
dragged it over a little far.
Okay, all right. So the long-term goal is the same on what Kate wrote and what I had wrote. And just see if that kind of tells what we want to do for the next 2 years. And this will be for a 2-year from 25 through 27. And we'll kind of lead the work that the Parks Board does. So to facilitate and implement improvements and procedures that connect residents to their parks. Focus on making parks open and accessible for ongoing usage, events that occur within a community. Work to identify and use a variety of funding sources, including local taxes, grant funding, and other non-tax revenue funds. So is that a good overview? Everybody feel comfortable with that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then we start down through the goals. Eric, and I was reading through the minutes, he also suggested that the number 7 goal be placed as number 1. because he felt that with the need to really focus on engaging and getting support from the community and getting their input, that that should be the number one goal and should be the kind of an umbrella for all of the rest of them. Are you able
I'm
to
just
find
looking
those
at
goals?
that.
Okay, yeah. So that's something to keep in mind as we go through here. There we go. That's the one that I'm kind of reading off of. We do need, so the number one goal on this sheet is to continue to monitor and make adjustments to those park projects that will be funded through the Metro grant. And the number one identified was the nature park shelter, restroom structure, and updated amenities to go with that. And then Meldrum Bar being the secondary tier with what money is left over. And then we'll have to see how much money is left over to kind of guide us on what we could do there. And also working to increase accessibilities within the city park. So that would be one goal. Anybody see something that needs to be corrected on that? Okay. Number two is to, and Kate rewrote this so that it starts with the nature park to complete design and construction of a paved loop trail. And that's through the state parks funding. Is that the correct source? So again, just to kind of monitor that through the process. And number three then is Meldrum Bar Park. Again, this will be searching for funding to support the construction of a fenced dog park and other improvements within the park as outlined by the current site plan that was just done a couple of years ago. So then Meldrum is kind of the second big ticket. The third one then is Nick Shannon Park to update and replace play equipment and access within the park. I think we kind of talked about this as the city needs the funds in order to do the Metro projects first and then they're reimbursed. Is that
Correct.
correct? So that's why we need to kind of get those projects underway and then get the money so that we can move on to other things within the city, such as Nick Shannon. But definitely needs to be in the next biennium to update that park. Concerns, questions?
Just regarding Nick Shannon, did we not agree to put some sort of a survey out?
We did, and
Okay.
we can definitely add that in there. We can,
I mean, start that project now. And
or
alert,
in the new biennium, yeah,
yeah, right.
we could do that.
Yeah.
Yep. So
So that we let the community know that it's a long-term.
project, but
Project.
yeah, I think getting their input, so we can rewrite this one to include a community didn't you want just the neighborhoods up there, or are you looking at the whole community?
It's a good one.
I'm not,
I know we need to include the neighborhoods because we did that with Robin Hood. We mismanaged, I guess, on the David M. Scott group.
so is it easy to pull like a neighborhood map around parks and kind of target that area and then put one in the city newsletter at the same time, but really target the immediate neighborhood? It's easy to do that? Okay. So we could do kind of a two-tier, same survey, but
Yes.
okay. So does that meet with everyone's? David?
I think it might be a good idea to be a little bit liberal with what you would consider the community around Nick Shannon, because it does draw from all the way over in the Sherwood Forest and even across Webster there,
Okay.
because there's a lot of people come up there to use it, and
Okay.
they should have some input and know something's going on too.
Okay, great. So that's a nice addition. Thank you. Number 5 is the Highway 99E trail crossing from Doll Beach to Charles Ames Park. And again, that's another one where we just are going to be continuing to monitor the progress and provide input because there'll be grant funding and perhaps.
Yeah, we should know an update on our current grant before the end of this year.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but is it mostly just grant funding then through that one, or is there going to be funding through the state highway?
This one is just, this is I believe it's through Metro or the federal, Clackamas Greenway project is federal funding, but I would have to check with Marcy on that one.
Okay. All right. Well, that'd be great if we could hear about that soon. And then number 6 is fire risk and management in the parks. Assessing the current status of community parks and city disaster plans and making recommendations based on information gathered. This was one that Eric felt pretty strongly about in that as things start to dry more, I know several of our parks are covered by wells. I think Patterson and Meldrum both have a well that they draw off of, but the others are pretty much, and maybe, I don't know, Cross and Ames is always green,
It's
that one little part.
It's irrigating.
Yeah, but then the rest of the parks are pretty much left to kind of dry during the summer. So that does, and they're pretty heavily surrounded by residents. So you really want to be careful. So I think that's something might be worthwhile really looking into and making sure that we're covered and that the plan is there. Especially after we just had a fire in the nature park, kind of updating.
Yeah, I think this is a great goal to have on there. The city just updated our hazard mitigation plan.
Mhm.
And I know with our partnership with Clackamas Fire, they would be happy to help us assess that. So I think this is a good goal to have.
Yeah, I think it's a smart one looking at going forward. So, and then the last one, which we can kind of talk about if we want to move it to number 1, if your thoughts are engage and support community involvement surrounding improvements, maintenance, and usage of city parks. Oh, this is okay, I want to read the one off of Kate because Kate did a lot better job of stating it. So engage and support the community, solicit feedback from users and residents regarding parks and recreational projects, including the improvements, maintenance, and usage of city parks, listen and engage with ideas and concerns.
I'm in favor of moving that to number 1. I think it sets the tone for the goals. And I
Mhm.
think we've had plenty of surveys in the past that have said that the residents of Gladstone, one of the number 1 things that they like about it is
Yep.
the parks.
Yep.
And
Okay.
so, yeah, we should have input on that for sure.
Okay, anybody else feel strongly about that?
Justice Mills, I do for sure, because that was, what those people that came down
Yeah.
from, Tom Scott or whatever.
David
M.
M.
Scott.
Yeah, David M. Scott, regardless of, what I heard that night, one of their main things was, hey, you told us about this before and now you haven't told us about this again. And when you have community involvement, I believe it's, the best thing to have, because you can sort everything out after that. And it's hard to apologize to people after the fact, where it's easier to say, hey, we heard your concern, we see your concern, let's see what we can do to try to help you out here in any circumstance, and go that route. So
Okay,
I'm in agreement with
Okay.
that, for sure.
all right, Kate, anything? You're good with that? Yep, okay, so 2 big changes then to what we had was number 1, moving 7 to number 1, and then making sure that for the Nick Shannon one, we put some sort of a statement where we're going to include a survey of neighborhood and community for their input on improvements in the park. All right, so we will get these finalized and then they're ready to go to council.
Yeah, and I would just say that I've been tagging these as goals for 2025 and 2026
Okay,
because they'll be January 25 and 26.
okay,
Oh, yeah.
okay, so we can change that
Yeah,
wording, okay. Okay, so January 25 and January. You'll get it, so it's correct. 26. Okay, got it. Okay, all right. Kristen, we'll get an updated copy of this to you, or unless you followed all of that.
I wrote notes.
Okay, and I have a copy of Kate's.
I
for
was
that.
gonna say, if I,
Yeah, here we go. Okay, all right, so good. Thank you. I appreciate you for getting this through. David, you have one more question.
Yeah, just a little question about the fire assessment. Now, obviously, we can't do a fire assessment. So how do we work with Clackamas on that? And what part does the Parks Board have to play in getting that assessment done? Jackie, would you be able to help on that? Because
Yeah, I would have to bring something back to you. I need to have a conversation with Clackamas Fire first.
Okay.
They have a lot of resources available now for wildfire mitigation. So I can talk to them and then find out how the Parks Board can help with that goal.
cool.
I think there is a disaster plan for the city, correct? So is fire mitigation and all of that within that disaster plan as it currently stands? Or is that something that the city will be looking at to update?
It was in the Gladstone Hazard Mitigation Plan. There's an annex on that section.
Okay,
So-
all right. Oh, okay, good. So that concludes the goals. Again, thank you so much. And we have one additional item that we've got on the agenda tonight. Is that we have a request in front of us for a memorial donation from a family wanting to put a park bench or replace one of the park benches at Cross Park. Oh, excuse me, is that Ames? At Ames Park? It is at Ames?
It's right on the edge of Ames.
And, okay, yeah. And I think there's a picture of it so you can see where it is on the second page. There is one of the brown, whatever that fake plastic board is,
BDC.
PVC, whatever it is, that's the existing one. And there is concrete there, so it would just be installing the new bench. This is a memorial one for a family member, their daughter. And then also there also is another memorial bench at Cross Park down along the waterway, and that's this green one, and that's what they would like. That's what the family is requesting. I think when we went through all of the selection of park benches, tables, and garbage cans, it was the recommendation of the board that there be a consistency among benches within the city. So I'm not sure how everybody feels like on that. David?
I'm a little confused. The bench that it shows on the page 2 here, is that the idea that that would be replaced by one of the other style? Or is it actually a new position along the trail?
No, replacement of that bench.
That bench with that, and who would bear that expense? The city?
No, that would be, and then that's what I wanted to know too, is who would do the installation? The family would like to donate the
I see.
bench with a plaque.
Go ahead.
Got-
So the families that want to do the donation bear the expense. So they have to purchase the bench, and they would have to also pay for the cost or the labor of any cement pads that need to be put in, so that the city is not bearing any expense for that. So in this case, their preferred choice is to replace that broken bench with a bench that's similar to the green metal bench, if they can. But if that is not something that the city will approve, they are wanting to put in another bench with another pad someplace else. But they're looking at it as hopefully trying to save a little bit of money because it is quite costly.
Or concrete.
So the estimate of cost that they got for just the replacement, including the bench with the labor, is $3,200 versus doing a new location with a bench. It has a pretty wide range, anywhere from $4,800 to $6,300, because some of the locations that they were interested in were higher up on the riverbank walk. And then they also had a couple that were in the lower area that were down in the floodplain, and that would cost substantially more just because of the labor. So
Okay.
they're open to whatever, but they would prefer the replacement of the broken bench.
Okay,
Could I make a comment here?
absolutely.
This is Bruce Hildreth.
Okay, does everybody understand what we're doing? Okay, all right, good. Okay, go ahead, Bruce.
I know that we as a group have decided to try to make benches consistent for replacement, something falls apart, what have you. And in this case, this one's fallen apart. However, my feeling is that had we had a budget that was a little bigger, I would have chosen this replacement bench that this family wants to donate as a park bench, especially along that walkway. I know exactly where that is. That's a beautiful view out on the river.
Mhm.
And I think to have a beautiful bench there, and obviously a memorial bench would be a very nice thing for that part there. And if that's where the family would like to locate it, and it looks like we have to replace a bench anyway, I think it's a win-win.
This is Kate. I agree. I think if memorial benches look a little different, that's okay. And that kind of makes it extra special. I like that green bench. I like to go sit on that one. It's really nice. So I think we should approve the donation and recommend that the green bench be also specially approved.
Anyone else?
Well, if that was a motion, I would second it. I was going to ask the question of were these people Gladstone residents? And I answered my own question by looking up there, and which is fairly close to where this bench is. So I'm all for it.
You know, I think there's two memorial benches currently between Cross and Ames. There's one up above by the bathroom that's a silver one, and then the one down below that's the green. And I understand why people choose that location to put a memorial bench where you can look out on the river. I see that, and maybe with time, you know, another one will come along and replace one of the other brown benches. So Kate made a great recommendation if she wants to repeat it. Motion. Can she do that?
Verbatim.
Verbatim, please. No change.
I motion that we approve the donation and recommend to the city that we make an exception to approve a green bench.
And I don't know if that exact same green bench is still available in the world, but there are green benches.
They're pretty similar.
Yeah.
I looked up to see if that one was still available. They're pretty.
Okay, all
Similar.
right.
I'm Bruce Hildreth, and I approve, or I second that motion.
Okay,
And
so,
approve it.
okay, so let's all take, can you call the roll on that, please, Kristen?
Yes. Okay, so Kate Cornelius,
Yes.
Nancy Turner,
Yes.
Bruce Hildreth,
Yes.
Justice Mills,
Yes.
and David Michael.
Yes.
Okay, so that motion has passed, and we'll leave it up to Public Works to work it out with the family.
Yep.
Um,
Thank you.
Yep, no problem. Thank you for bringing it to us. All right, so is there any business from the audience? Do we have an audience?
No, there was no requests.
Okay, great. Is there any other business from the board? Anything anyone's seen recently in the parks? Anything we're happy about? Anything else you want to bring up? Yeah, I know, I don't want to know. Okay, so our next meeting, for sure, there will not be a meeting in November because that is a holiday when we would have had it. So stay tuned on whether there'll be a meeting in December. And you'll be somehow, we'll let you know. I would, anything else from the city?
Nope, you're doing great.
All right,
Do
so
we want to talk about who wants
oh,
to
yes,
be part
on
of
the
interviews?
interview, yes. And I even wrote that down here.
Sure.
So is there anybody on the Parks Board that would absolutely give their eye tooth to be on the interview squad?
Scheduled permitting, I would like to.
Okay, and I would volunteer, maybe if we just, those who would like to volunteer and then you can draw from that pool, would that be a good way to do it, Jackie?
Yeah.
Okay, so
That'd
I would
be
also
great. So-
volunteer to do that. Anybody else?
I would do that as well. Justice Mills.
Okay.
Lots of willing bodies there. Thank you for stepping up. Appreciate that, guys. Okay, anything else that I've forgotten that we need to do? All right, I would
Move
entertain-
to adjourn?
Okay, is there a second? Is there a second?
I second, Bruce.
Okay,
All right.
would you read the roll? Thanks.
Yes.
Chris.
Kate Cornelius.
Yes.
Nancy Turner,
Yes,
Bruce Hildreth,
Yes.
Justice Mills.
Yes.
David Michael.
Oh, yeah.
okay, we are adjourned.